Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the RepPath podcast. Today, guys, very important topic. I know it sounds basic, but we're going to talk about how to interview like a pro, when you're going for a medical sales role. Before we get into that, as always, guys, quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please submit them into the chat. Podcast producer James is going to handle those, and we'll address them about halfway through the show. Excuse me, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. We are live today if you want a copy of this and see a recording of this podcast, please make sure that you're subscribing to my YouTube channel, Unfiltered Medical Sales Coaching. So you can go on there, see this podcast and all our other material and content that we've come out with, previous podcasts. Also, please, guys, anyone that is looking to break into the industry, all right, the RepPath Academy is live and running. We are doing fantastic with helping people each week break into this industry. That's why I picked this topic today, because this is one of the key topics. You could see here on the screen, this is our website. It's RepPath.com. You could see more information on there, testimonials, the companies we work with, the number of candidates that we've helped place. We keep placing them every week. So please reach out to me, guys. You can message me on LinkedIn or schedule a call via my LinkedIn calendar so we can talk more about the Academy. But very excited. This is one of the modules that we have in the Academy. So I wanted to talk about this today because it is one of the most important things tools that you need is to be able to properly prep before you get into these medical sales interviews. Okay, because we've all been there, guys. You're stressed out, you got your suit on, you show up early, you got your multiple copies of your resume, you have your brag book, you got the new haircut, shaved, everything. You look great. And then you get into these interviews and then the manager hits you with a question as simple as, why should we hire you over everyone else? It could be that simple question and you're not fully prepared. Okay. So guys, this isn't about coming in and to be able to give the right answer. All right. You got to show much more confidence. Okay. And really show that. And that only happens by the appropriate preparation. The more you prepare, okay, it's going to show during these interviews, because there's a lot of reps in the RepPath Academy now that have no medical sales experience. We just had an outstanding candidate. I don't want to mention his name without getting his permission, but he is flying through rounds with multiple companies. He actually has a distributor offer right now on the table. And during the RepPath Academy calls, I got phone calls after our group call from reps telling me, wow, they have 20 years experience, that are looking for their next job. And they're like, Joe, I can't believe how much I got to step up my game because I saw what he's doing and he is outworking me straight up. And this is real, right? So yes, of course it matters how much experience you have, your background, that all comes into play. But don't think because you have 5 years more experience or 10 years more experience than someone else that they can't beat you for that role. Believe me, guys, it's the work that you put in. And for a lot of you younger guys that are saying the opposite, shit, I don't have 5 years experience. How could I compete with these people with all these, a lifetime of experience? We're going for the same role. Remember, once you get an interview set, it's all equal playing field. So now outwork your opponent. If you outwork them, trust me, it's going to show in the interview. When you come prepared, it's going to show. You're going to outshine those people, and that's when you get offers. So do not take it lightly. If you are not fully committed, and this is a non-negotiable, guys, don't just take interviews, because I did this shit. I took interviews to I'm going to practice. It's always good to take an interview just to practice. You could do that if you want, guys, but you still got to put the effort in. Put a full effort in that you want the job. If not, don't waste your time. Don't waste their time, because you don't want to get that reputation too. Because believe me, you start working with some of these recruiters and they get the feeling that you're just taking interviews just to practice and you're not putting the effort in, they're going to stop working with you. And that there's not that many medical sales recruiters out there that don't know each other. You can get that reputation. Believe me, guys, you don't want that. So put every ounce of effort into every interview, and that's how you're going to get offers. I hope you all have multiple offers, and then we have to talk about which the best one we should take. But you need to do this before you need to do the same preparation that we're going to talk about today for every interview, or don't waste your time. Don't go in half-assed. All right. So let's start right off the bat. All right. It's the mindset that you need. All right. You have to think like a top rep. And I'm going to talk about this. I talk about this almost on every podcast. Everything you do during the interview process is a sales call. It mirrors everything you're going to do during a sales call. So you're always going to be great at that way. So don't take anything lightly. And the first thing you need to do is have that right mindset. You got to think like a top rep. Approach everything like a top rep does. Those top reps, they are preparing more than most the average reps do. All right. So start off just thinking that way. A top rep prepares. I'm going to out prepare everyone. I don't care what their background is. I don't care who they know. I don't care the doctor relationships they have. None of that means anything to me. I know I'm going to control the controllables. And one of them is out preparing everyone. That's the first thing you're going to do as a medical sales rep. So what does that mean, Joe? What is out preparing? The first thing you do when that that recruiter calls you up, or the HR personnel says, hey, Joe, we have an interview scheduled with you with XYZ company next Friday with Bob Jones at 8 a.m. The first thing you do is go on LinkedIn, you check out Bob Jones, check out his background, of course. But more importantly than looking up everything about Bob Jones, and definitely more importantly about looking up everything about the company, you're going to reach out to the reps that work with Bob Jones. All right. Now, I get this all the time too. Well, Joe, I tried that. I reached out to a couple of them last week. They didn't get back to me. Okay. So when you're calling on doctors or customers, do you reach out to them once? And then if they don't get back to you, you go, well, I tried. Guys, and remember, like I said at the beginning, everything is a sample sales call. This is a reflection of how you sell. So you don't ever know if they're testing you. A lot of times they're just busy. They don't care about you. They don't know you right now. So you have to create urgency. You have to get in front of the person. That takes multiple attempts. So I don't ever want to hear the excuse, well, I tried reaching out and they didn't get back to me. That's bullshit. You got to reach out to the point where they tell you, Joe, stop calling me. You're annoying me. I don't want to help you. If they do that, guys, then you have my permission to stop reaching out to the person. This doesn't mean you call them every single day. You reach out to them on LinkedIn every single day. No. But every couple of days, if you have an interview coming up, and it's a week from now, you should be able to reach out to them 2 or 3 times, before that interview. Give it your best effort to get them on the phone. And that's the key. We want to get on the phone with these individuals because the goal is to get information that you can't Google or Chat GPT. If you do that, that's the gold. That's the real info, guys. If someone else can look it up real quick, is it really that insightful? No, it's what the reps can tell you because they know the real story. They know what's really going on at the ground level. So that's the information that I want. And I always challenge every candidate that we work with at the RepPath Academy. They got to speak to at least 3 reps before they get in that interview with that hiring manager. I know it's not easy, guys. It's not going to happen every time, but that's the goal. And many times, trust me, when you get in this habit every time, you'll see it gets easier and easier. Because to speak to 3 reps, that doesn't mean reach out to 4 reps. I don't care how many people you have to reach out to. It could take reaching out to 50 people at the company. It doesn't take that long. You create a little quick message, short and sweet, about asking to pick their brain just for a couple of minutes. And you want to get them on the phone. You want to find out, number one, what a real day in the life is like working at XYZ company. Because believe me, guys, a lot of you do research online and have thoughts in your head. And I've seen a lot, especially for associate roles. This is why it's important for a lot of you young reps out there. You'll take an associate role assuming that you're going to sell, right? And that doesn't always happen in those roles. As an associate, you are supporting a territory manager. Your goal is to help that territory manager hit his or her number. If they hit his or her number, then you're going to get a quarterly bonus or a monthly commission, however they have the structure worked out. But you might not always be selling. A lot of times you could be covering cases all day. So I've seen reps not find out what a day in the life is like, and they'll get in the interview and they'll tell the hiring manager, well, I can't wait to get this role because I'm going to sell. I'm just summing it up right now for this. But they talk about selling. Hiring manager is looking at them like, do you know that all you're going to be doing is covering cases? All right. That's all you do. You just cover cases. You take trays from one facility to another. There's no selling. You're just case support. So if you don't know that, that's a simple, big, glaring red flag to that hiring manager going, this guy doesn't even know what he's getting himself involved in. How can they possibly move forward with you? But if you have a really good understanding, when you speak to these reps, know what a day in the life is. That's simple. They could explain that in 5 seconds. But also finding out more about that territory. That's the key. You want to do research with these individuals like you're doing a research paper in college, where get so much information that now you can put a real business plan together, a real 30, 60, 90. I feel about 30, 60, 90s. The generic ones are garbage. Do not come in with a generic 30, 60, 90. You have to speak to these reps and get as much information, that real information of who are the key, the KOLs in that territory. Who are the doctors or hospitals that are currently using your product, and who are the ones that that are targets that are other key opinion leaders that you want them to start using. Who are those targets? Who are the hospitals that you're currently in, and or the hospitals that there's contracts or GPO reasons or whatever that you're currently not being used at. So you want to take all this info and start building a business plan that you could actually give to that hiring manager that sets you apart with something that's really actionable. So he can look at that and go, wow, this is actually something that we can implement if you started here tomorrow. So some of the things that people don't find out, and they put the generic talking points in there, that again, you could do that on ChatGPT in 5 seconds, guys. That's what you're going to do for a business plan, a 30, 60, 90. But here's an example. For your 30, 60, 90, the first 30 days, most of you are going to have some component of training. I mean, there's not a company in the world that throws you in the field first and then brings you back 6 months from now to train. They're going to train you at some point during those first 30 days. All right. So you don't want to just put product training as one of your bullets for your 30, 60, 90. Talk about product training, mention the products, the specific products. Most importantly, who are you training with in that facility? Who is the training director at XYZ company? Get their name, get their information. If you're going to learn more about the HR policies, who is the HR individuals that are going to be leading that at that company? So actually build a real plan with real individuals that are going to be a part of this. It shows the homework and the effort that you guys did to go into this interview. Believe me, not everyone's doing it. So when you start putting real names down, the hiring manager is going to go, how'd you get this information? And that's where you want him to talk about that. You want to talk about the effort, the people that you spoke to, who you reached out to, everything that you did to prepare. Because remember, again, this is a sales call. He's going to look at you and go, wow, you did all this. So what are you going to do when you get in front of doctors? That's the kind of person I want on my team. I don't want someone that's going to wing it. There's too many reps, guys. And again, I did it too. I can't tell you how many times I got out of my car and I was walking into the office going, I don't even know what the hell I'm going to talk about today. And I just got in front of the doctor and just started saying shit, and it was stupid. So I was always thinking like, I got to get my 10 to 15 calls in a day. Like when I was in the pharma days, device, I wanted to see certain doctors because I knew the more they see me, eventually they start using. But a lot of times I wasn't coming up with a really good game plan that is specific to them. So if you do that, the hiring manager is going to see, wow, he actually learned what are some of my key drivers? What do I like, dislike? And then try to create an approach or a plan that is satisfying and appealing to me. He's going to do that with my doctors. He's going to do that with the customers. This is the kind of guy I want on my team. So this is the most important thing you can do to prep for an interview. Do not overlook this, guys. Do not give up if people don't get back to you. You got to go in thinking they're not going to get back to me the first time. I'm going to keep coming after them. I'm going to keep reaching out, because that's what I do with my physicians. That's what I do with my customers. I'm not going to give up. So you got to have that attitude, guys, because that information that you can't get online, that's what's going to separate you from everyone else. If you just go in without talking to anyone and just do the research of the company, of the products, of the divisions they're in, of course, that's second. That should be a no-brainer to look that up. You don't want to sit here and memorize product knowledge to get in front of someone in an interview. They don't care about that. They don't care. You're not going to impress them by showing that you studied about products. They want to see how you get the information that isn't available, online. They don't want to just see that you just put a couple hours in looking up and researching. It's not a research report. They want to see you actually getting the info that not everyone can get. That takes effort. That takes rejection. So don't just sit there and look up all statistics about a company. It's good to know that. That's great. It's good to know about the products, but they're going to teach you a lot of that in the process. Now, obviously, you need to know what you're selling. You need to have a good grasp of that. You wouldn't take the role unless you did know that. But I've seen reps that have tried to memorize 50 products, all the specs about all these different products or SKUs or whatever they're selling. And then they get out there and the hiring manager never even brings that up during the interview. He cares more about strategy, he cares more about the type of person you are. So you want to make sure that you have that ironed out. I think I beat this to death enough, but that's the point, guys. Reaching out to those reps is a non-negotiable. You have to do it every time, or don't push forward with that interview. All right. So next, I want to talk about the personal stuff. Okay. Because a lot of times we're not prepared. We're so much business focused. We don't focus on some of the personal stories of who we really are. And that's what a lot of times that what these hiring managers care about. They see your resume, they see a lot of your achievements. And of course, you're going to go over that and talk about how you accomplish these things. That's all very important. And we'll talk about that. But also be prepared to talk about who you are as a person. When they ask you, tell me something that, because I get this a lot with my candidates. I got this a lot when I interviewed, when I was a manager and also as a rep, where you need to know things that you could talk about that aren't on your resume. Be prepared for those questions, because I get it. My candidates come to me all the time. Joe, they slipped me up. I didn't know what to say when he asked me, give me something that is unique about you that's not on your resume, or give me something that you're very proud of that's not on your resume. So guys, you got to start thinking about these things. I mean, you're more of a person than just your professional end of your life. You're not just all business all day long. You do have a life. There are things that you have done, so you want to talk about that. Be prepared about that. If you're a musician, great. You have an athletic background, great. Whatever. You like to work out, you do different, marathons or Ironman or whatever it is, CrossFit. It doesn't matter. Just be prepared to talk about the things that make you, because there's 3 things that the manager is thinking about when he's interviewing you. Number 1, can I work well with this person? Number 2, can this individual work well with the team? Are they a good fit? And lastly, are they a good fit for our customers? Can I see this individual being well received by our customers? And if you are no's to any of those, that's a red flag. So it's about, sometimes you're just not going to click with someone, and that's okay. But at the end of the day, guys, you don't want to come in so robotic that you're just this business, all business all day long. Be prepared to discuss your personal side. All right. You want to make sure you do that. Definitely make sure you're discussing your personal side to show you're more than what's on paper there. Okay. Sorry. Just looking at some of my notes. Okay. So next is, mastering your sales story. Okay. What is your story? When they ask you, tell me a little bit about yourself. All right. So this is where you need to show the passion of what you did in your, of why you want to be in this industry. And it could be a story about something that has happened to you that was traumatic. It could be a family member that motivated you to get into medical sales. It could be sales related. It could be, you always love to work with, people, and you care for people. So you have, empathy for patients. Had a lemonade stand when you were 10, whatever that is, that show a connection of where this passion comes from and how it's led you to who you are today. So no matter how crazy your background is, no matter what zigzag approach you took to get here, that's okay, guys. Not everyone has this linear, I got this sales job, then I got promoted here, and I got here, and now I'm, the director here. It doesn't always work that way for everyone. So you got to be able to put that story together, because everything good and bad has made you who you are today. And that's why you're here. And that's why you're the best fit today. The best sales reps, the best candidates put that story together, and they make it compelling of why everything that has happened in their past has led to why they're the best candidate for this role today. It's not easy, but you got to be prepared to tell that, guys, because that is important. You don't want to make it seem like you just ended up here, or this was a cool job. I heard about it through a friend. My buddy's in medical sales. He crushes it. You don't want that to be the motivation. It's got to be something that's passionate, because at the end of the day, if you're not prepared for that with that passionate story, something that is not on the resume, that should be your passion, something that they can't see on that resume that you can discuss in the interview. You got to captivate them with that, guys, because that's going to be the person they want to hire, because they'd rather hire someone that's passionate, might even have a little less experience, than someone that's on their fourth medical sales role in 5 years. And they could be, a stud sales rep. They could have done well in the past. But if they're not showing that passion, it's going to make them nervous to want to hire them. So you got to make sure that you show that passion and really craft that story. Next, guys, you got to practice. All right. I know it sucks. Role playing, I used to hate it. There's nothing better than role playing and getting better at whatever you're trying to tackle. Okay. Because again, it's a sales call. We all role play to get better in sales. It's all uncomfortable. We hate doing it. But if you don't do it, you're never going to get better. So when you're doing these, of course, this is what we do at the RepPath Academy. And this is how our candidates get better when they get in front of reps, when they get in front of managers to get these roles. But we do a lot of mock interviews. All right. So this is key. If you're not going to join the academy, please get a friend and do a mock interview. Get a family member, your husband, wife, mother, father. I don't care who it is, a friend. I don't care. Just get in front of someone and practice doing these interviews. You want to rehearse, because you want to come in not that you memorized. There's a difference between being well prepared, where there's nothing they can throw at you that you can't handle, versus you memorize your answers. Memorize your answers are obvious, guys. They can tell that's fake. All right. I can cram before a test and memorize answers. I did this shit in high school, but when you really prep and you really know your stuff, then there's nothing they can't ask you. And then you give off that confidence, and that is powerful. They know that you're calm, you're cool, you're confident. Of course, we're all going to have some nerves, but the less prepared you are, the less practice that you had going into this, it's going to show. You're going to see the beads of sweat. Certain questions are going to make you uncomfortable. But when you know your stuff, there's nothing they can throw at you that you can't handle. And so that's why you got to put the prep in. You got to practice. I know you hate doing it, but you have to do it if you want to stand out. Okay. So you also want to make sure, guys, that you understand the company that you're getting into and the culture. All right. We also want to understand, like we talked about earlier, understanding the role that you're getting into. Is this a sales role? Is this just fully sales support? But you want to mirror what is going on, in that company culture. Some of you that want to be, I'm my own person, I do my own, I get all that. I'm not saying to come in there and be a robot, but if you do want to mirror, look at what some of the skills and attributes that they look for in candidates. It's going to show it either on their website. It's going to show it in their job posting. So you want to mirror a lot of those things that are talked about in there, and talk about how you exemplify that, in your life. Because that's what they're putting those skills down and those attributes down for a reason. So talk about it. It also shows that you actually read the job posting. You actually went online and saw what their mission is, what they're all about. That's fine to talk about and say, like, I know your mission is XYZ, and I believe in that because this is what I've done in my past. This is how I exemplify that. That's huge, guys. It's really powerful stuff. You think there isn't a silver bullet. So all these things might seem like, all right, that's not that big a deal. That's not that insightful. But if you put all these pieces together and do these simple tasks, you're going to stand out. It's about the little things that make you stand out more and more. And before you know it, you look around and you're like, wow, I'm night and day above all these candidates now because I'm doing all the little things. All right. Last little tip before I take some questions. And I just did this post today. I know I've talked about this many times. Before you get in that interview, every single rep, and of course, non-negotiable, after the interview, you're going to send a thank you email. Nobody sends a thank you email before the interview. They just don't do it. Might be a person here or there that does it. But if you want to stand out before you get in front of someone, and no one is going to look at this as a negative. It's always going to be a positive. Send a thank you email a day or two before you're supposed to meet with that individual. And if you tell me, well, Joe, they never gave me that email, try to get it. That's key. When you're speaking to other reps, because you should be doing that anyway, let's be real, guys. The company email is probably j.licata at, medtronic.com, j.harris@medtronic.com. It's going to be the same, format. So those other reps should be able to tell you what the email is, or you'll be able to figure it out just by seeing what their email is. But get that email. Don't make that an excuse that, oh, they never gave it to me. Get it. Go find a way to get it. And then you want to send an email to that hiring manager showing your excitement, asking, hey, hey, Bob, we're meeting Friday at 8 a.m. I just want to tell you how excited I am and enthused for this opportunity. Is there anything that you would like me to prepare specifically before that interview? If not, I look forward to seeing you Friday. Best wishes, whatever. Best regards. That's just that simple couple sentences, guys. You're going to stand out. You're going to show that excitement, that enthusiasm that not everyone else is showing. Trust me. I don't care if someone else does it, good. Then any 2 out of the number of candidates are the only ones that are doing this. But odds are you're going to be the only one that does that. So make sure you're doing that before every interview. I'm going to shut up for a minute. James, do we have any questions?
Yeah, we have a couple.
Thank you.
We got, what's your take on candidates sending short video introductions before the interview? Is it helpful or do you think it's cringy?
I'm a fan of video, the video approach. I don't know if you already have an interview set up with someone. If you need to do a video, if you have an interview already booked with a hiring manager and then you want to send a video introduction, I'm not against it. I don't think it's necessary. You're going to meet with them. Now, if you can't get in front of someone, I absolutely am all for that. I think that can help you stand out. So you could definitely still do it once you have the interview, but you already got the interview. I would care more about what information are you finding out about that hiring manager before you get in front of him. Instead of sending some generic video, spend your time doing the research with those reps and other team members that have worked with this guy or girl, and say, hey, these are, you find out his key drivers, and then create a plan and approach to that's more appealing to him. So that I care about more. I'm not against it. I think, sure, why not? Definitely the videos when no one is getting back to you and you want to stand out, because there are only a few people that do that. There's not enough reps. There's not a lot of reps that are doing that right now. So 100%.
Joe, is it okay to take notes during an interview, or is that a red flag?
Absolutely. Absolutely take notes. So what you want to do, you're going to come with questions prepared, written out, with spaces in between. I know this sounds stupid, guys, but a lot of times you'll write down 10 questions or 15 questions, and then you don't even leave enough space to write your notes. It looks like you just wrote those questions just to ask questions. No, you're there to find out information. It's a two-way street. So what I would simply do when you're setting up, handing your resume, you have your notepad out, and then you just for courtesy, ask the hiring manager, would you mind if I take notes? And also, I have some questions for later on in the interview for you here that I have. They're going to say, of course, no problem. So that's okay. You don't want to sit there like you're in history class writing down everything that the individual is saying, but it's okay to jot down some notes when they're given information. This is important. This is your career. This is going to be your livelihood. Shit, yes, you want to make sure you know what, a lot of the details that he's saying or she's saying. I mean, just write it down. So just make sure you ask ahead of time for courtesy, but that's definitely something you should be doing. And they're not gonna have a problem with it.
We got, how do I handle back-to-back interviews with different managers from the same company? Should your answers change or stay the same?
Well, I mean, if your answers should be your answers. So if you're changing your answers, so if someone asks you the same question, let me get this straight. Not to throw it back. I know we can't talk whoever asked that question, but just thinking out loud, if there's two different people that are asking you the same question and you're going to change your answer, that's a red flag. So be you, all right? You're here to get a job. Yes. You want to say the right things. Yes. You don't want to make up everything that you're making up so much stuff now. You don't even know what the hell you're saying, that you're saying something different the next time someone asks you the same question. Absolutely not. You want to make sure that your answers are real answers, and whether it doesn't work for you or not, that's okay. But you still got to be true to yourself, guys. So definitely don't just change answers for every manager just because you think that's what they want to hear. Have it really be you, your real reasons. Of course, you want to fine tune it and say the right things, but you don't want to be fake. So no, your answers should not be different.
I get really nervous before interviews. Do you have any mindset tips to calm down and perform better?
The number one solution to nervousness is preparation. Absolutely. You can't tell me that the more you prepare, the more nervous you get. It's the complete opposite, guys. The more you prepare, your nerves are going to diminish more and more. You're never going to go in there totally carefree, like you're, on a beach relaxing. No, you're going to have those butterflies. You're going to have the nerves always. That's good to have that. But that there's difference between that like anxiety nervousness, where it's like, when we were in school, we talked about this with Amy on our podcast last week. When you're in school and you're taking an exam that you didn't study for, you're freaking out before the exam because you're like, oh man, I hope he doesn't ask me about this. I hope they don't ask me about that because I didn't study that. I was only able to study this one chapter. I hope everything's on that. It's the same thing with the interview. Oh, damn, I hope they don't ask me about this because I don't really know what to say. Oh, they might ask me about the products that they sell here. I didn't look that up. The manager might ask me about him. Like, what do you know about me? Damn, I didn't do that research. So if you've done everything you could and they ask you a question that you're not ready for, it's okay. It happens. But to come in unprepared, that's only going to just increase your nerves. So prepare, prepare, prepare. I know I can't stop saying it. The more you prepare, the more it's going to ease your nerves.
What would you say are the top 3 things every interviewer is really looking for in a candidate, even if they don't say it?
I think it's those. Number one, the likability, like we talked about before. Do I get along with this person? Are they going to do well with the team? Are they going to do well with the doctors? They want someone that you're in a sales role, guys. So they want individuals. It's great to have people they like, but they want more than anything, they want people that drive results. So that is key. So if you do have any sales positions in your past, you have to have your results on there. Whenever you're answering questions, even if you don't have such a strong sales background, you got to still show your transferable skills of why you be a good rep, but it's got to be results related. You got to always talk about what was the result, because no one cares about a sales rep that just goes out there and does tasks. It's great to do all these different tasks, but that's what everyone has to do. What was the result? So you got to be able to really verbalize, and show how you drive results in whatever you do. That's key. So likability, driving results, and for me, that to show your resilience, because resilience is very important in medical sales. Guys, there's so many changes. You could be doing well. I remember when I started in pharma, I was doing well in my first territory, and 6 months later, they had a realignment. And all of a sudden, I have a new territory and a new manager. I was like crushed. I was like, I love my manager. Now I got this new guy. I don't know him. I wind up liking him a lot too. But at the time, I was like, this sucks. Now I got to call on all these new doctors. So you're always going to be hit with these changes. So you have to be, it's resilience, but it's really more about being adaptable. So medical sales, you have to adapt. There's, doors close on you. Doctors one day can see you can't. There's products that companies change focus and then make another product a priority. Reimbursement changes, patents that get their life cycle ends. All these things are going to hit you that you have to be able to constantly adapt. So that's what I always like to see in sales reps, where how are they able to adapt when this challenge came in front of them and overcome it? So those are the 3: likability, drawing a blank on the second one, adaptability, likability, and for whatever I said the second time, sorry guys, drawing a blank, but those 3.
We got Joe. I'm Italian and I am very animated when I talk. Are there some subtle body language cues that make a huge difference in how interviewers perceive me?
For me, that's be you. Be you. I'm Italian too. I talk with my hands. It's not as much as some, but Italians talk with their hands a lot too. My wife, when she speaks, she looks like a conductor. Her hands are flying all over the place. So be you. So that's fine. If that's how you speak, that's how you speak. You don't want to change yourself and all of a sudden now you become an awkward version of yourself. That's the last thing anyone wants to see. So just be you. If it's your hands are flailing, you're animated, that's fine, guys. I'd rather see you be authentic than come in as this fake robotic person that they're going to see through that, and it's going to be a turnoff.
How do you handle being thrown an unexpected technical question that you don't know the answer to?
Well, if you don't know the answer, say you don't know the answer. Do not bullshit. That's the last thing you can do. They could sometimes, and I've had managers that did this. I worked with individuals that would do this to test people to see if they would bullshit. James got movie reference right now. Perfect one.
I was waiting for it.
This is perfect. Okay. And if I don't know anyone on the planet that doesn't like this movie, so you can't even make fun of me with this one. My cousin Vinny.
Perfect. Good movie.
Yes. So my cousin Vinny, when Mona Lisa Vito is on the stand, when his fiance is on the stand, and then the prosecutor is asking her, what would be the right, when he's asking her a mechanic question about the car and what would be the right setting. And then she goes, that's a bullshit question. And they're like, why is it a bullshit question? because he made it up. Like it's not possible because they didn't even offer that in that one color or that one type of car. So it's the same thing with some of these managers. Don't bullshit because they can smell it. They could sometimes ask you a question that they don't even know the answer to. Don't make something up. Be honest. Say, I don't know. I'll find out for you. And that's a perfect, just like when you are in sales, when you're in front of your doctors, they're going to ask you questions that you don't know. You just say, I don't know, but I will get you that information. Don't be upset, because I used to kick myself and go, damn it, I should have known that. No, guys, this is a great opportunity because now you have a reason to go back in and see that doctor. So same with that hiring manager. You might not know something. They could be testing you to see if you find out the information. So get that information, say, I don't know, but I will get back to you and I'll find out, and get them that answer. Trust me, guys, that will go a long way. So don't be upset with yourself saying I screwed up. That could be a test, but don't ever make something up. That is a red flag. They will, if you ever do that in the field with a doctor, you could get fired depending on what information you said. You don't ever want to do that. Just be upfront. I don't know, but get the information. Wait, did you like My Cousin Vinny or what?
I loved it. I loved Mike. Can we get more references? Actually, to be fair, you've been given some good movie references as of late. It was really the first two that I can only give you crap.
To step up from Devil Wears Prada.
Yeah. Is there a time? How do you know when to go deeper in your answers versus when to stop talking?
I mean, one of the cardinal rules, guys, you want to be short and sweet. You don't want to be a big storyteller with all your answers. You don't want to bore the shit out of people. You got to have some common sense here. You got to look at some facial clues. You got to see. I mean, you have conversations with people. Do you know? I mean, I know sometimes when I'm talking people's ears off, I could be talking your ears off right now. I have no idea because I can't see you. But when I see someone, I get the clues like, all right, I got to close it up. I'm kind of rambling on here. So you got to have that common sense too, guys, where you look at those clues and just be like, just cut it off. But if you're finding that that's an issue, that's something you got to work on to begin with. You don't want to be too much of a storyteller. Because all hiring managers, again, it's a test of how you sell. They want individuals that can deliver the messaging in a short, concise, but effective manner. That's the key. So think of it that way. Again, if you're in front of a doctor, they don't give you, hey, Joe, I got the next half hour for you. Tell me everything you want to tell me about your product and ask me whatever you want to know. No, they come up to you and go, what do you got, Joe? I'm sorry. I'm running late. I got another patient here. So you want to be short, effective with your messaging. Same with your answers. I'm not saying to rush through the answers, but you use common sense, guys. If you practice your answers and you prepare for a lot of these questions, you're not going to ramble on so much. You're going to be ready. So again, come back to that preparation, prepare the answers, don't ramble on, and just notice someone's facial clues. If they look like they're bored, they are. So cut it off.
We got lots of people tuning in on X right now. What's going on to everybody on X?
Awesome.
What do you do when you realize halfway through the interview that the company isn't actually the right fit?
And this is after, sorry, say it again.
What do you do when you realize halfway through the interview that the company isn't actually the right fit?
And that's fine. I mean, you're obviously not going to jump up and go, I'm sorry, this isn't for me. I'm going to go. No, you have already made the commitment for that interview. That hiring manager made the commitment for that time, so for respecting their time, your time, the effort that everyone put in, there's a recruiter involved that set this up. Trust me, guys, you want to piss off a recruiter so they never work with you again, cancel the day of an interview, when everything was set up. Now, you can go through the interview and say, call me up afterwards. If I'm the recruiter and you call me and say, hey, Joe, I have to apologize. I really appreciate everything that you did to get me this interview. But, halfway through it, the hiring manager was mentioning X, Y, Z. And then I realized this isn't for me. That's okay, guys. Don't bullshit everyone to get to where you have an offer now being handed to you. And then you say, you know what? It's not for me. They will never work with you again. Ever. Doesn't matter how many times you send your new resume, how much more experience you get. You screw someone over like that, they're not going to do that. So it's okay to say no after you found out certain information and not want to move forward. But you're not going to stop halfway through or, just get up and go, hey, this isn't for me. So be respectful, go through the whole interview. And then the sooner the better that when you know that this isn't for you, just relay that to the HR, the hiring manager, the recruiter, whoever it is that you're working directly with. Don't let it drag on. That's the worst thing you can do, guys, because you'll get a bad reputation. You'll piss people off, and it's just unprofessional.
How do you turn a rejection into a potential future opportunity with that same company? So I'm guessing they didn't get the job.
Yeah, and again, that's maintaining your professionalism. Sometimes guys, they like, and I get this all the time. I did this as a hiring manager for years, but also working with hiring managers all around the country. They take multiple people to that final interview and they don't know who's going to win. They go, I like so-and-so for this reason. I like, her for this reason, whatever it is. Then they get to that final interview and it's really a coin toss. It's a coin flip. They go, really, they're both great candidates. And then they might ask, other individuals. Again, this is another reason why you got to contact as many people as possible, because if you're contacting those reps, you don't know how many people now are on your side that can help push you across. But if they say, sorry, Joe, we decided to go with Susan, or we decided to go in another direction, that's okay. Okay. Because you don't want to be pissed off. You don't want to show you're really upset, or give something in the email that's a little, unprofessional. You maintain your professionalism, because I've seen it, guys, where a couple months later, another opening came up, or there was a realignment, or that rep, it didn't work out, and now they're calling you. So always keep up that positive attitude, that professionalism, because you never know where the future will lead you with that same company. We see it all the time. So make sure you do that. It sucks when you don't get the job, but you don't want to be a sore loser and show your feelings, because it's only going to hurt you in the end.
Joe, is there a way, what's the best way to answer the question, what's your biggest weakness?
Well, first off, what's your biggest weakness? I think is one of the stupidest questions. I hope no one still asks that. It's like I feel like it's from like the 80s. You don't want to do the cheesy, oh, I'm too competitive, or I care too much. I'm a workaholic. No, that's nonsense, guys. I would rephrase it when they ask that. Go, actually, one of the things that I'm working on, because it shows you have self-awareness. Like for me, it's my patience. I'm not patient at all. I'm working on it and I'm trying to get better. But you could talk about that. You could say, actually, one of the things that my previous manager and we discussed, that I need to get better at my follow-up, but I'm working on this, and I've implemented X, Y, and Z to get better. So twist it into not a weakness. It's an area that you're working on and that you're already addressing it, and you're already working to correct it. And make sure you have the things that you're doing to help you improve that. But twist that right away. You want to get the weakness thing out of your mind. And you don't want to be cheesy and give strengths when they're all, when you don't want to give weaknesses that are really strengths. That sounds stupid. They know that. Talk about the things that you're working on and how you're already implementing that to get better.
Should I ever bring up my quota achievements from other industries?
100%. Anything you've done in the past that shows that you drive results, you want to talk about. Okay, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what field you come from. It doesn't matter what sales background you come from. If you could show that you drive results, that's what they care about. Because again, a lot of you that come from different industries, you got to show your transferable skills. You got to show how you were able to achieve certain tasks. So the more that you can talk about that and how it also makes them feel more comfortable that you've done this before. Doesn't mean that, oh yeah, I didn't call on cardiologist in the past, so I can't be successful at this cardiology company. No, it means, yes, I have done this in the past where I had a difficult customer, or I took over a territory that was underperforming, or I dealt with a challenging, individual that I was able to convince to use our product. All those things that you've done it in some form or fashion in the past, and you're going to do it here, once you're hired, that's key, because they want to hear that. And the more you could show that, the more opportunities you're going to get.
Joe, is there any ways to practice interview questions when I don't have someone to do mock interviews with? Can I do it in the mirror or record myself?
Absolutely. I mean, I think ideally you want to record yourself talking to someone. If you really can't find someone, I find that hard to believe. But if you can't, absolutely get your camera out, record yourself. I would set it up where sometimes it's almost like someone else looking at you, so you're not looking directly into the camera, because you could talk to, the TV screen that's off, or whatever. Talk in a direction where, it's not so obvious. So you could see your reactions, from like a third person point of view. But definitely recording yourself is key. It's awkward. Believe me, when I do videos too, it's still weird to talk to a screen. But the more that you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. So I still would push you to try to find someone, because that's the only way you could get that real feedback, where someone tells you, Joe, you keep scratching your face, or you keep saying, or whatever it is. I mean, I say things all the time. I still don't have it down pat, but you want that person there to give you that honest feedback. But if you can't, definitely videos are fine.
I'm in pharma right now, but I want to move into device. Is there anything I should focus on in my interview prep?
Well, number one, it's you have to be aware that it's not that easy. And I was someone that came from pharma and went into device. So, I know I'm going to get people that get upset with this, but this is reality, guys. A lot of device managers are skeptical of pharma reps, because there's that stigma that they don't work as hard as pharma reps, because they're not in operating rooms working all hours of the night sometimes, and some of it's true. And to be honest with you, I disagree that there's good reps in pharma. There's good reps in device. There's high performers. There's poor reps in both sides. But at the end of the day, if you're going from pharma into device, you have to know what that role is and understand, because one of the things they're going to challenge you. Well, you haven't been in the OR. You're just calling in offices all day, where, how are you going to handle if cases get pushed back, and you're going to have to stay till 12 at night? How do I know that you're going to be prepared to do that? Like, they could ask some sort of question. You want to make sure that you really have a full grasp of what this job entails. And if you do, one of the things you do want to highlight, and this helped me get from pharma to device, because I know they weren't so thrilled about me coming from pharma, but they were thrilled about my relationships with pain specialists at the time. And that's why they really hired me. So if there's any sort of relationship that you have, that is key, because that'll trump anything. Sometimes there's one or two doctors that they're like, oh, wow, if we can get in front of Dr. Jones, he's a monster in our business. He does 20 cases a month. And if you have a relationship with Dr. Jones, you want to highlight that. So your relationships are key if you're going from pharma into device, to have some of these managers, take you in.
What kind of question should I ask the interview to show I'm serious?
I think straight up saying how much you want the job. When you really want something, you say it. There's nothing, you don't have to play it cool. This isn't a date that you don't want to show the girl on the first date that you really like her and you pretend like you're not that interested. No, guys, you got to let them know, I really want this, especially when you're closing, I really want this job. Is there any reason why you wouldn't move me forward? just be blunt. Let them know. I mean, I always appreciated that, because you could feel it when someone wants it. Not only you're going to show it before you can even ask that question, you should have proven that by the effort that you put in, getting back to reaching out to all those reps. If you put in all that effort, and you had multiple conversations, you developed a business plan that's an actionable business plan, and now you're here and now you're talking to them about how much you want the job. Well, how much more weight does it carry if I did all that work and I say, I really want this, what do we need? What do I need to do to get to the next step? Or what is the next step and will you move me forward? As opposed to, I didn't do anything. I didn't prepare at all. I didn't call any reps. I did the standard approach. And now I'm sitting here saying, I really want this. I'm going to go with that first person every single time.
How do you build self-awareness to spot what went wrong? I can't speak today. What went wrong in past interviews and fix it before the next one?
Well, I mean, excuse me. Sorry, guys. One sec. I really did forget the question. And I also want you to repeat that again so you stumble again.
It's a tongue twister. How do you build the self-awareness to spot what went wrong in past interviews and fix it before the next one?
Well, I mean, the reality is if you don't get a job, the standard protocol, you ask the recruiter, when they tell you, sorry, Joe, they decided to go in another direction. Is there anything that they shared with you that, is constructive criticism for me? Now, it's great when you get that information. It's rare. And there's a reason why a lot of companies don't give out that info, because they're handcuffed a lot of time by HR protocols where they're not allowed to say certain things. They worry about legalities and people coming back and suing them. And it sounds crazy because I didn't believe it. But when you get in these positions and companies, they're very, very nervous about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing. So they might not give you that info. So you might not know that. But guys, you got to have that self-awareness. There's a lot of times where you knew where you screw up. There's times when I say, and I go, oh man, I forgot to mention that. Or why did I say that? Again, you got to have common sense where you look at people's facial reactions. I mean, sometimes they give it away. They give like the, like shocked face, or they're like this, like, what the hell was that? You'll pick up on that. But at the end of the day, guys, you should know, because most of my candidates, when they leave there, they have a good understanding on where they could have improved upon during that interview. Try to get that information from the recruiter or the hiring manager. You might not always get it, but at the end of the day, I think, your own intuition tells you like, oh man, I screwed that up. I should have answered that differently. So you just want to make sure that wherever you feel you weren't strong, even if you could be wrong and you're too hard on yourself, that's okay, but just work on it. Repeat that question, repeat the answer, come up with a better way of phrasing it, and you'll get better.
Right. And the last, I think I have two more questions for you, Joe. Besides telling the interviewer you really want the job in the final minutes of an interview, what strategies do you use to close the interview like a true sales professional?
Well, one of the things I always like to do is a setup question. So this isn't a movie reference, James, but we can all appreciate, back in the day when we're Yankees fans, when Mariano Rivera, before he became, the greatest reliever of all time, he used to be the setup man for John Wetland back in the 90s, right?
95.
Yeah.
And 96.
Yeah. Came in the 7th and 8th inning, and then Wetland closed it out, especially in the World Series. That run, I mean, it was amazing. But he was the setup man. So they didn't go right from the starting pitcher right to the close. So same thing with closing. You want to have a setup question. At the end of the interview, they're going to say something like, all right, Joe, well, we got a few minutes left. You have any questions for me? And I want to get a gauge of where I stand with this individual. So I'll simply just say, hey, Bob, I know I spent the past hour, telling you a lot about myself, and how much I'm a good fit for this role and how I feel I'm the best candidate for this role. What do you think? Just say, what do you think? Or something along those lines that keeps it open-ended. You don't want to go right in, do you think I'm the best fit for this role? No, don't go for the yes or no question. The setup is an open-ended question. What do you think? Very relaxed, very informal. Let them talk. They should be selling themselves through repeating all your good attributes and the reasons why they think you're a fit. That's a great way to get them to do that. Also, it shows, what did they retain? Because they might forget things during the interview that you can fill in. But most importantly, they could give you an objection. And that's common. So don't think, oh, wow, he gave me an objection, I'm screwed, I'm not the right person. No, now it's your chance. You have to handle that objection. Guys, it's a sales call again. So you're going to get objections from doctors all day long. You got to handle the objections to be able to close them. It's the same thing here. They give you an objection, you handle the objection, then you go for the close. So that, for me, make sure you're always thinking of the Mariano Rivera reference. Have your setup question. Let them talk, open-ended. Talk about why you're a fit. If they give you the objection, handle it. Then you go for the close.
That was a great answer, Joe.
Thank you.
And the last question I have, how do you explain results when your past company didn't track metrics well?
Well, for anyone this happens a lot, guys. So this is a lesson for any of you starting today. Don't let that be an excuse. Whenever you're starting a sales role, if it's a real sales role, then and say they don't do it, because some don't, because they're smaller, start tracking it yourself. Start tracking you should be proud of all your accomplishments anyway. Start tracking how many sales you have a month. Where would that rank in the company? How much did you improve from month to month? Because I want to see 4 things on a resume. This is what really helps reps stand out. When I say results, driving results, it's rankings, percent to quota, sales growth, and awards. If you do those 4 things and you have them on your resume, it's going to make you look that much stronger. You don't have to have all 4, but you got to have one of those 4, or the hiring manager is going to say, were you really in a sales role? So assume that, don't make it the excuse that, oh, my company didn't keep track of that, so I didn't have any data. Bullshit. Start tracking your own data the day that you're hired, or from this moment forward. Have a conversation with your manager, your boss. Be like, listen, I'm a competitor, so I want to start tracking this. Is there anything that we can formulate on Excel or whatever? Or do you mind if I do it? So show that initiative too. But if you want to make sure that you have that data in a brag book, because no one uses brag books anymore. It's something that just isn't even asked for that much. But the reps that do have it, they're that much stronger, and that can set themselves apart. So if they don't do it yourself, and make sure you're tracking that every month, because you want to get that in your resume.
That's all I got for you today, Joe. We got lots of people on Twitter today.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, that's great, guys. I appreciate you all joining, every week. Again, please, for all you individuals, anyone that is either looking to break in or advance in their career, reach out to me for the RepPath Academy. You can go to our website, RepPath.com. That's RepPath.com. And for all you individuals, again, here it is up on the screen. You could see all our data, the companies, the testimonials. The testimonials are great, guys. So please look at them, because these are real individuals that are in the same position you're in. We have individuals right out of college. We had an individual that was with us for 3 weeks and got a job at Becton Dickinson. We had another candidate that didn't even graduate college yet. Last May, she graduated. She got the offer in April and started June 1st. So these are real stories that you want to hear and see that other people that are in your shoes can do it. So please check out the website, set up a call with me, and I can talk to you more about the specifics of the academy. And lastly, guys, any individuals that are lobby members, please make sure when you reach out to me that you give the promo code Licata, Licata, so you could get additional discounts. But again, guys, I thank you all for joining me. James, thanks as always, man, for handling all those questions.
Of course.
Even though you stuttered through a few of them, and that's okay.
A little tongue twisted today.
But thank you guys again. Again, we'll be here every Monday and Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. So I look forward to seeing you guys on next Monday. Have a great week.